What does it mean? The person running a platform where hate speech is surging decides it is funny when his employees stand against it. What does that portend? Joining us now, Angela Corazon, President and CEO of Media Matters. Angela, thank you for being with us tonight. I don't mean that last question as a rhetorical one. I want to know from you, what does it mean about Musk's leadership?
So I think there's three layers of harms here that people should consider. One is that, when you start to invite this, as you pointed out, when you start to welcome these accounts back, when you say these types of things are okay, when you roll back policies that are designed to protect these communities, you have direct harm to the individuals that receive the harassment. So that's harm number one. Then you have this other layer on top of it, which is the temperature. The more of this stuff that pollutes the stream, the more of this hate and vitriol, sort of gets injected into Twitter, the more the rhetoric and the temperature ramps up. The climate gets worse for everybody, and it just makes it makes it much more violent, much more likely to lead to violence. It ratchets it up. So that's the second thing. The third then is the scale, where it becomes a problem for people that may never have even touched Twitter, and that's that what Twitter then is that under his leadership, you're not just going to see more tolerance and acceptance of these attacks. You're going to see within the mechanics of Twitter's engineering itself, not just changes to policies, but also shifting or allowing the algorithm to actually amplify and organize around this hate. And that's where the individual harms start to become much more systematized. And that's the real concern here and that video and all these illustrations demonstrate the trend line that we're moving toward. Roll back the policies and enforcement, welcome these people back, and then privilege all this type of behavior so that you're actually scaling it and organizing. It's organizing, but at an algorithmic level.
Well, I want to lean into the third point you made there, Angela, because there are people who may say, well, I don't have Twitter, right? I'm not exposed to this. That's not how it works. This all shows up in our day-to-day life. It shows up in legislation that gets proposed in states we live in. So talk us through the mechanics of how that happens and how it is more dangerous in a moment like this.
Right. When you leave it, when this kind of content gets left up, I think sometimes people say, well, sticks and stones will never break my bones. Why do we care about harmful content, especially when it's targeted towards marginalized individuals or this type of disinformation? Why should it matter? What's the effect? Okay, it's more than hurt feelings. And I think people need to understand that because the more you leave this content up, what Twitter knows, what all these platforms know is how long individuals stay on that content, how much they interact with similar types of content, and it begins to build profiles and lookalikes. And what it starts to do is say, hey, you're somebody that's maybe never thought about this issue before. Maybe you've never expressed any indication of anti-trans violence, but perhaps based on all these other factors, you may be really interested in this. You're already kind of bigoted. You're already kind of racist. Would you also like to hate trans people? Here's some lies and misinformation about what they're doing at your local school. And that's the problem with this idea that if you don't use Twitter, it doesn't affect you, because it does. Because Twitter then, like these other platforms, become engines of radicalization. And they also provide the tools for online to offline harassment. Because it's worth keeping in mind that part of what Elon Musk wants to do is build more capabilities on Twitter for closed organizing, like we have on Telegram and these other platforms. So he wants to make it sort of a one-stop shop for both hate, harassment, abuse, and also offline action. And that's where it starts to affect everybody, even if they don't care about Twitter.
Angela, I've only got about 30 seconds left, but talk us through how this then all gets rinsed and repeated by people in positions of power.
Well, what ends up happening is that if you are in a position of power, especially in the Republican Party, part of the strategy now is you organize power on what used to be considered the fringes. And that's partly how Donald Trump added so many people to the rolls in 2020. These are all people that never touched politics on the far right, but he was organizing power there. So what that means is that you actually have elected officials that begin to validate and pander to this type of percolating extremism and misinformation, which makes it much more legitimate. But it also then starts to enshrine it in policy, in everyday life. Beyond just the norms, it starts to put this kind of hate and harassment in laws. And we've all seen that trend over the past couple of years. What happened in Florida and elsewhere is just a few examples of that. It's happening everywhere.
Angela Corazon, it was not a fair question to ask you to answer in 30 seconds, and somehow you did it. Thank you, Angela Corazon, President and CEO of Media Matters. Thanks for your time tonight.